Hi, this is Dr. Tim Green, and I'm here with Dr. Tonia Dousay.
Hi, Tim.
Thanks for taking your time to let me interview you. We have two topics today that Dr. Dousay is going to talk about. But before we get into that, Dr. Dousay is an assistant professor in the Instructional Technology Program at University of Wyoming. And I'm going to let her talk a little bit about herself before we jump into our two topics.
Thank you, Tim. I am an assistant professor at the University of Wyoming, and I'm in the Instructional Technology Program. But I had a bit of an interesting background. My undergraduate and master's degrees are actually in agricultural education from Texas A&M University. So I have worked in the K-12 classroom with ag educators and with students in agricultural science. But then I became an instructional designer with a state agency, working with adult education and continuing education for emergency response and emergency preparedness. From there, I actually began teaching business communication classes at Blinn College and then worked my way back into grad school to get my PhD in learning design and technology. So it's a bit of an adventure to get where I am.
Wow, so you've kind of run the gamut.
I have.
That's awesome. I mean, that's good experience. I think, especially in instructional technology, ed tech, and instructional design, that broad experience is helpful. So,
Absolutely.
what do you mostly teach in the instructional technology program?
I coordinate our undergraduate teaching with technology course. So I work with our other faculty who teach, as well as our undergraduate students in that program. Any student in professional education has to take that class. We also have graduate assistants who teach that class. So I work with all of our instructors. At the graduate level, I focus on the multimedia development courses, instructional design to some extent, and the applied hands-on side of the theory that we work on.
So, how long you been at the University of Wyoming?
This is my second year at UW.
Awesome. Do you like it there?
I absolutely love it here.
Yeah, I mean, I like the area. Laramie's a pretty nice town.
It's simply beautiful, but Wyoming is a hidden gem. We are the only four-year institution in the state. Not a lot of people realize that. So it's good and bad. We get all the attention and we get all of the attention. So
Exactly.
it's an interesting situation because UW itself is located near the Colorado border. It's actually closer for me to visit colleagues who are at Colorado State or UC Boulder than it is for me to even visit some of our students who are located up in Jackson or Sheridan.
Wow, that's interesting. That's pretty cool. Well, thanks for introducing yourself. Our two topics today, and they're very different. I'm going to warn everyone that they're very different, but wanted to capture your thoughts about something that you've just recently been involved with, and congratulations, by the way,
Thank
in
you.
the Google Teacher Academy. And just a little bit of bragging for you is it's very competitive. For those who don't know, it's a very competitive process where you have to apply, not only create a short video about yourself, but also write in the application about the things that you're doing and why you want to do it. But what I want to do is ask Tonia some questions about her experience. So we're going to start out with what in the world is the Google Teacher Academy, or the GTA?
It's a great question because it's probably the one I've been asked the most in the last month since it was announced who would be in the Austin cohort. The Google Teacher Academy is an extremely intensive two-day professional development opportunity. You are matched with a few Googlers, Google employees, lead learners who are Google certified teachers. They've completed this process already, and a cohort of approximately 50 other teachers, school administrators, you name it in education. We even had a few consultants in our group. The purpose of GTA is to really recognize the influence of innovation in the classroom. And that doesn't necessarily mean technology and gadgets. That's part of the application process, is defining what innovation means to us as educators, how we think that we innovate in the classroom, and what do we think we can do. So the Academy is also looking for teachers who want to be leaders and who want to be teacher leaders. So when they're looking at the applications that come in, it's pretty common for people to have to apply 2 and 3 times before they're actually accepted to an academy. Traditionally, they've been held twice a year, usually focused on North America, so possibly held in Mountain View, where the main Google campus is located, and then drawing from across Canada, America, and Mexico, with a few being held internationally. This last year, they really did open it up, and I believe they've scheduled 10 Google Teacher Academies throughout the world. They were hosting academies in Europe, Asia, and South America. I believe there was one in Brazil this year. And the last one this year will be held in California later this month. So there are somewhere between 750 and 800 Google certified teachers worldwide. And that means that all of us have completed this academy and spent these 2 intensive days. That is the key word, intensive. You really can't prepare yourself. You can read tips, you can read blogs, you can look at application videos from past applicants and GCTs, but until you get there, you don't really fathom just, it is nonstop. On the first day, you start at 8 a.m. and you don't stop until 8 p.m. And it's little things like slam sessions where the lead learners, the GCTs who have done this before, run through and show you really quick tidbits. So they introduce themselves to the group and then show you a quick tip that you may or may not have known. So one of the tips we got this year was how to use the Chrome extension, Snagit, to create animated GIFs. Because sometimes a video isn't quite what you need. You just want to show a quick little process on how to do something and maybe embed that in an email or in a document. Had no idea the Snagit extension could do that for me. So that was one of my takeaways from the slam. You're working through seminar topics that might be about an hour long, and it could be what we called smash ups, where you take 2 different ideas and smash them together to do something new. So it could be a Google tool, it could be a website you use, it could be an add-on in Google Drive, whether it's Autocrat to do mail merges and forms or something else, and create a whole new process flow. So one of the other cohort members talked about using add-ons like Flubaroo for automatic grading in Google Drive, paired up with a mail merge like Autocrat to flag long answer responses in a quiz so that it can auto grade the multiple choice stuff and then drop the long answers into a new document so the teacher can easily grade just that piece of it. So it's a smash up. Or just looking at really cool ways to use video in your classroom, or mobileography, mobile photography and video production. It really is intensive and an amazing experience. You also walk away inspired with ideas from other teachers or looking at problems in a whole new way that face educators today.
Oh, that's cool. Thanks for that. It sounds pretty cool.
It really is.
So what got you interested in being part of the GTA?
That's probably one of the most interesting sides to what I do. Because I didn't spend as much time in a K-12 classroom as I would have liked, I feel like I want to have more credibility with my students. If I'm expected to stand in front of undergraduates and even some post-bac students who have completed a bachelor's degree in a subject area and now want to be a teacher, what makes me qualified to stand in that room and help them learn these tools and ways to use these tools? Okay, so I got a PhD. That doesn't necessarily mean anything to some of these folks, especially if I'm working with my graduate students. A lot of our grad students in our master's and doctoral program in instructional technology are K-12 teachers. They're in the trenches and they're doing this on a daily basis. They face challenges that I don't have to deal with. I don't have school administrators like they do. My administration structure is completely different. I'm not dealing with Wi-Fi or lack of Wi-Fi that's too slow. I don't have to face those challenges. So for me, being part of the Google Teacher Academy was to get fully connected with the people who are in those trenches and who are doing innovative things in those trenches so that I could get inspiration, so that I could get feedback on what I could use in my classes, whether it's undergraduate or graduate. But then I also had an unexpected surprise where I was the only higher ed person in this cohort. And I imagine there's not many of us throughout any of the GCTs, but I felt like they let me into their group and I was accepted as one of their own. But I now have 51 close friends who are willing to talk to my students, to do Google Hangouts with my students, even if they're not my students, just a student in the College of Ed, to make those connections for them. But it also gave me that chance to really engage professionally and to put up or shut up.
That's awesome. I really like the idea of the connections there too. I think that's powerful. So you've sort of kind of answered this, but kind of the last question about it, and maybe you have some different things to add. But what are your top 3 takeaways from your experience with the GTA?
The number one takeaway I got was classroom ideas. So it's one thing for me to talk to pre-service teachers about how they might think about using technology as a teacher one day. And most of these students are sophomores and juniors. They haven't taken any type of pedagogical class in education. So they're really just kind of exploring. But I got great ideas to show them technologies in new ways. And it might be a simple game like using Google Maps to do an amazing race in the classroom. Or it could be video ideas. So in my online classes, I'm actually going to extend some of the principles that I've tried to follow in keeping like short clips for students, but break them up. So for example, I provide a weekly overview for all of my online classes that I teach. That overview starts off with a wrap up of the previous week's discussion, includes just a quick overview of the new topic that we're going to do this week, and then a succinct description of any assignments and activities that have to be completed in that week. Typically, those are 5 to 7 minutes. But what I'm going to do is extend the segmenting principle of cognitive theory of multimedia learning and create those as smaller chunks as 1.5 to 2.5 minute videos for each piece, and then have a 15-second video that has a screen cap of each of those. Because within YouTube, where I host it all, I can link out to those videos. So what I embed is the 15-second advanced organizer. If I don't want to listen to last week's discussions, I can skip ahead and see what the topic is for this week. Or maybe I've already done all this and it's later in the week and I need a refresher on the assignments. I can just click on that one and go straight to that video. It might take a little bit of extra work, but between the tools that I use, I can't see it being that much extra work, but it will give more to my students. And that was a direct takeaway from one of our sessions at the Academy. I also now have a dedicated personal learning network. We are probably a unique cohort. We are GTA ATX 14, and we connected well before we got to Austin. I believe it was said that we were the only cohort to ever show up and have personalized custom t-shirts. So that was something that they weren't even expecting. And I don't think any of us were expecting how well we would mesh together as a group, how we would come together and already start sharing the problems that we're facing or the resources we have. Yesterday, I think many of us were scrambling to produce a 7-second video for one of the other cohort members who's going to lead a faculty meeting at his school in St. Louis. He asked if we could create just a greeting video that he could then pin to a map to visually display to all of his faculty how many of us were there, where we were from, and just to give us a face to his own faculty. And that's an amazing network to have. Just last week, actually, after it was over, a colleague in South Carolina, a faculty member at the University of South Carolina, was looking for advice on how to use exponential notations in a Google form or some other online quiz. I knew there had to be an add-on for this, for Google Forms. So I went to my new PLN and said, "Where's my math teachers? Do you guys know of something?" Boom. Less than 30 minutes, I had an answer to use the GMath add-on in Google Forms. You
Cool.
can't get that anywhere else. But then also I got support for changing paradigms. So one of the ideas behind the Academy is to come up with a moonshot idea, moonshot thinking, something that is radically different, that is going to solve a problem in a completely different way. And my moonshot idea is based a little bit off of Sir Ken Robinson and some of his ideas about education and changing paradigms. I'd love to do away with grades 6 through 12, and it becomes a secondary academy, and you complete the curriculum and graduate at 14 or 18 or 20, depending on what you as a learner can accomplish. But those academies are focused on preparing them for the future, for jobs that don't yet exist. Because industrialized education as we know it, I don't think is the answer. So my moonshot idea is to radically change secondary education, shake it up from the bottom to the top. But yet I had 51 educators to ask, what do you think about this? This is going to change what you do and how you do it. Can it be done? Not a single person told me no.
That's
So
cool.
that gave me some inspiration and some help.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's what a great idea. Thank you for describing your experience at the GTA. It sounds like it was awesome, and not only will you benefit, but you directly for your students as well. Think about all the things that they get based upon that 2 day of experiences that you have.
It's a lifetime of learning right there.
Awesome. So we're going to switch gears here, almost go 90 degrees and go
Okay.
to a different topic. And we're going to talk about AR and augmented reality. And this is based upon an article that you have under review with one of your grad students. So, and it's a topic that I know a lot of people are interested in. It's got really a hot topic. If
Yes.
if you haven't read, if you don't know that it's a hot topic, you have not read any of the literature or any of the popular press. So we're just going to I'm going to ask you a few questions about that. And let's just start out with a very basic one. What is AR?
So, augmented reality, in its most basic, simple form, is supplementing either a direct or indirect view of reality in some other way, using sound, graphics, video. You think of it and it's possible. So, an example I can give here is a very simple classroom activity that I've seen carried out where a health instructor has an augmented reality activity in class. So a sticker is placed on the back of a hand, and another sticker can be placed on the side of the head or on the temple. When a mobile device or other tool that can scan that sticker running, in this case, it's using Erasmus, it displays an overview of the bones in the hand. So students get to see in an augmented reality what are the bones that comprise the hand. In the case of the sticker on the head, it's a side view of the brain and looking at the different areas of the brain that can be highlighted. So it's really just a different way of looking at the world and accessing information.
So why would we want to include this in the classroom? Especially, let's think K-12. Let's focus on that. Why would we, what are the benefits?
There are all kinds of benefits. One of the ways is to engage learners. So you have two, well, there's many different approaches, but the way I kind of divide it is you can have the instructor designed augmented reality where they've developed or at least put together the resources to do something like the health activity with the overlays. Or you could do something in history class where you can hold up a device. It's pretty common, especially in lower grades. You might have a poster on the wall of all of our presidents. So you could hold up a device, or if you are fortunate to have the wearable technology like Oculus Rift or Google Glass, you can look at it and the picture of that president triggers a video. And that video could be about that president, or it could be an impersonation of that president explaining their time in office or their life story. You could chop down a cherry tree and then have a student identify which president that was. So there are different ways you can use it. And even if it's a sticker, like a picture of someone, in popular culture, some of the apps move into the design world. So IKEA is probably very well known. Their catalog works with the IKEA app in an augmented reality way. You're flipping through the catalog, you see a table you want, but you're not quite sure if it's going to work in your home. So you scan the page of the catalog, and then you hold your device over that area of your room, over your dining room, and it now displays that table in that space. So you can now visually see, oh, yeah, that's really too big. It's not going to fit here at all, because it does try to do the scalability dimensions. So now we can get into some of the engineering and design sides of education and get some STEM pulled into the classroom and talk about design and what does it mean to design for different spaces or design in different arenas. But that gets me to the other half of augmented reality. What happens when you turn the design of these experiences over to the students? So you have the students themselves working on augmented reality tasks. There's a popular trend right now to use GPS-based augmented reality. So you could have pop-up tours. Your device detects where you are using its GPS locator, and it says, oh, there's an activity here. So much like someone could think of geocaching and going on a scavenger hunt just based off of the GPS, now it's going to load up media related to your physical proximity. And this can be in the classroom as a teacher. So maybe you want to build something related to the history of your town, or you could even do it from a professional development standpoint. You walk into the room and it reminds you that you have a parent teacher conference later, and it pulls up all the materials you need to refresh your memory of that student. So it has all kinds of applications. It really is all over the board, and it's putting it to use the way you need it.
Yeah, I like the idea, sort of like the idea of going into a room and things popping up for me to remind me. Might take some getting used to, but that's a great idea. I mean, how cool is that? The resources, you need it when you need it.
Absolutely. The Google Keep app actually has that function right now, something that one of my groups talked about, and that has led me to think about other ways that AR could be used in classrooms and design.
Yeah, it's awesome. So we talked about the benefits. What are, in your opinion, what are some of the major challenges of using AR in the
A
classroom?
lot of the challenges come down to having the accessible technology. It's nice to say, oh, yeah, everybody has one of these, but that's not always the case. And some schools struggle with that. So, still having the technology in hand is one aspect of it. But then also, a lot of it has to do with teacher comfort. I don't know this technology. It's going to take me time to learn this technology. I don't even have time to implement what I have in my class. So, how can I go with this? And then beyond that, the design aspect. So, I ask graduate students to actually plan out an augmented reality activity in one of my multimedia classes. In the advanced class, they have to build it. So, that gives them a curricular arena to learn the tools to design. But what about the students who don't have that opportunity, or the teachers who don't have that opportunity? So, what I've tried to do with those teachers is show them how to use existing resources. Crowdsourcing is one of the greatest parts of being in the internet today. So, you can look up videos that you could then have launch. So, you're not building the media that's going to be displayed, you're adapting the media that's already out there.
So let's hop back just a step here.
Okay.
You mentioned about having your students in your graduate program create augmented reality experiences. Can you describe? I mean, can you just describe that a little bit more? So
Absolutely.
maybe what someone has done and created, or what kind of tools, or kind of what direction you do. So just whatever you
Right.
want to explain about it. Just curious about it.
There's one project, and it specifically, one of my students is actually thinking of using this for her dissertation. So she started off in my multimedia development class and really thought the idea of augmented reality was something that she could focus on and that really interested her. Her concept is to take advantage of the maps and globes that appear in most social studies and history classrooms. Her storyboard to design an activity actually includes a couple of different ways that AR can be implemented, but you use the outline of a country as the trigger. So if the device is held over the map or the globe, it focuses on that tracing outline. And then a menu pops up. And on that menu, you can then have a link to a video about that country's history. And then you can have a data summary sheet that tells you, kind of like if you're on Wikipedia and it has the side box that says, here's the country's population and their languages, this is what currency they use, and who's the current leader of this country. So that could be a data sheet that pops up. So she's looking at having a tree option so that students can then explore countries through this AR experience, and then just incorporating that into many different lessons that she has throughout the school year. So they're using a technology that they might already be accustomed to because they might have the device in their pocket if they're a BYOD school or bring your own device school, or using the classroom set of devices that they have, but encouraging that engagement and just exploration. Because it's kind of fun when students start playing with it and go, oh, well, I've never heard of this country. Let's see what this is. Or this country has a funny shape. I just got interested because I looked at it. Let's see what it's all about. So it's kind of like being that 6-year-old a couple of decades back and just opening up the encyclopedia and playing with it. It's the same kind of concept, but for a digital age.
So what did she use to? And I'm getting technical. What did she use to create it, or is she thinking
She's
about?
still building it right now. So she went through the storyboard in my class, and then she's working on refining that storyboard. So she's actually been talking to her students like, well, what kind of information would you like to have access to? She's been focusing on Erasmus because that seems to be one of the easier platforms, especially for teachers to latch onto. A year ago at the Kappa Delta Pi KDP convocation, there was a workshop on AR in the classroom. And the workshop leader used Erasmus. One of my undergraduates came back and was just totally excited about it. And I let her lead a lesson in my undergrad class on augmented reality. So it really is everywhere. Like you said, it's in popular culture. Today in the news, the Postal Service deployed an update to their app. So you can now hold your phone over one of those iconic blue mailboxes and it will do something. According to the articles that I've been reading and the screenshots, some of the mailboxes transform into an igloo. Some of them have little creatures jump out and little lights, and it's cute. But I'm not really sure what value that adds to the Postal Service. It also apparently cost them $150,000 to develop.
I think I know why. So when you're waiting in those long lines, you need something to bring you some humor. Maybe that's it.
But it's interesting because it does remind me of when we implement things just for the sake of being flashy.
Right.
What value does that add to the Postal Service? It doesn't improve their customer service. It doesn't improve their on-time delivery. I still have a package from Amazon that's lost. Thanks, Postal Service. But for the same reasons, we have to think about why we want to use it in the classroom. Just because it's flashy doesn't mean it's adding anything to what we're doing.
Which is a good segue into the last question, which I think you could add that to, which is I always end the interviews with what advice that you have for teachers, instructional designers, educational technologists, and so forth. And so what advice do you have for those who want to use augmented reality to either design, develop, or just implement?
Don't use it just because it's the next cool thing. Never let your technology tools drive the strategy. Always let your content help you select the appropriate tool. This is something cool. It's something new. It has some great applications, but make sure that it's a thoughtful application.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for talking about the GTA. And also, thank you for sharing your work with AR, what you do with it, the challenges and the benefits, and how you have your students do it. It's going to, I think, be very helpful to those listening. So again, thanks, Tonia.
Thank you.